So it's all about it's about working as a community, because the class system is in this in the MMO in the Elder Scrolls Online, of course. So you do get to choose your class, and they did move away from the way that Skyrim was, where you could kind of just be whatever you want to be. You know, you could increase your magic, you could increase your so you weren't strictly a class. It was more like you got to mold your character the way that you wanted that character, and sometimes even creating your own class. So they moved away from that, and obviously they did, because in an MMO, like I said, you're working in a group, and usually every group member has to have a job. Like your healer, you've got to have a mage that heals you, that buffs your party, and then and sometimes debuffs the monsters. And then there's your damage dealers, right? They could be what usually is called a black mage, or a mage that deals damage. And they're usually the strongest damage dealers. So you want to at least have a tank, which is your they're sometimes called paladins, or the ones that are, you know, sword and shield, the ones that can take so many hits, and they're the ones that protect your friends, the weaker characters. So you want to have a tank that's right up close combat, boom boom boom, hitting everything and getting all the aggro, all the aggression from the monster, and tries to keep the aggression so that the monster doesn't turn on to, like, say, the healer, because the healer wouldn't be able to survive if it took too many hits. Like I said, your damage dealer could be like a two-handed warrior or something, or like a mage that deals damage. And then you've got your thieves or your rogues, and they're the ones that also deal a lot of damage, but usually they're the sneaky ones. Like, they're the ones that will be behind the monster, and usually they can't have any aggro either, so that they could work better, so that they could be constantly behind the monster and getting higher hits, because they could deal higher damage if they're behind the monster. This reminds me of my times with Final Fantasy. So it's just like, it's reading this just really took me back, and I was just like, wow, that was so much fun back then. Like, I would love to be able to do that again in something like this, you know, this whole fantasy genre. There's something that that they're incorporating in this that's called finesse, and it's something that is intended to be an obvious carrot that encourages players to develop skillful tactics. So they want to encourage you to be skillful in your fighting. So not just to go up there and press A and watch your character hit the monster, and that's it. You know, it's like, they want you to change your skills. They want you to have fun, like, you know, to work with your party, to like they said, that they could, if let's say you're going against this monster, and you work together with your mage, where the thief or the rogue throws down this oil, I think it says like some oil spill right in front of the monster, and the mage ignites it with some fire and just burns the monster. So just working together like that skillfully, or interrupting, let's say, some magic dealer, the monster that is, or the enemy is casting magic, you interrupting it and then having another player hit them is also another skillful thing. So you doing crazy things like that, or things that make you strategize a fight to make it go smoother and faster, they reward you with this finesse. And this finesse, it's a reward, gives a bonus loot chest in addition to charging your ultimate attack. So it's just a way to encourage players to think more than just go out there and fight. You know, they want to have their players having fun, and not just have it be this redundant thing. So the player versus player combat and NPC. Now you're going to be fighting players, other players, and also NPCs. It says that the enemies are monsters, the three-player factions, that's player versus player, and necromancy corrupted Imperials. So the NPCs they have smarter AIs, and they kind of strategize the way that you probably would as well. Like, they work in groups as well. So this is the part that just blew me away. I was like, whoa! So it says the majority of the central province of Cyrodiil is the battleground for endgame PvP, with the eventual goal being conquering the Imperial City and crowning the most accomplished player in your faction Emperor. So I'm just like, what? Whoa! They're using the topography to build the Imperial City and the provinces that they used in Oblivion. So, it's going to be very familiar for people that have played Oblivion. Seizing the Imperial City, this is what I wanted to say. So ZeniMax Online intends for battles over control of the largest keeps to scale all the way up to the 100 versus 100 top end that the game's engine is written to support. Players intimidated by the idea of charging into furious melee can hang out in the back and fire siege weapons, which can smash the walls of a fortress into rubble. Smaller targets like farms and mines give smaller groups something to do beyond being part of a massive keep assaulting horde. So I was like, oh my god. Seizing the capital city once your faction takes a commanding lead in points gives your team the chance to ride into the Imperial City and sweep Molag Bal's Daedra from the streets. The Imperial City is in the game at launch, but not reachable by players. So this is the whole level cap thing again. You won't be able to survive, so it would be way too dangerous. But it is there. And then the crowning of the Emperor isn't through a vote or other social mechanisms. Once your faction has taken the Imperial City, the player with the highest contributions to the war will receive the title according to a calculation that is still being finalized. So it says that it's kind of like if you're on top of the leaderboard kind of thing. That's who's going to become Emperor. They're still finding out how to do that. But I was just like, oh my god, that's going to be so crazy. Could you imagine a scene like that? Player versus player going up against all these players, like depending on your faction, these three factions, fighting for the Imperial City. It's like, oh my god, that's just crazy. That's freaking crazy. They say that they are well aware of common pitfalls for MMOs, so they're keeping it all into consideration. And it says 250-person team is composed of all of equal parts MMO veterans and Elder Scrolls fans who have given deep consideration to everything from the nuts and bolts of the combat system to the players' expectations of an open world that reacts to their decisions. So they're trying to keep this true to Elder Scrolls, but also a great MMO experience. Look at that, that's so cool. They've got some really cool screen captures. MMOs are expensive bets for companies and consumers alike. Odds are in ZeniMax's favor at this point. And yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, this sounds like it's going to be really epic if they can pull it off. But it's good to hear that they are keeping in mind a lot of stuff. Just a few little things that says what's in, what's out. Daedric princes. There's a lot of Daedric princes. One of them is Molag Bal. Another one is Vermina. Other Daedric princes. Crafting alchemy and soul stones. ZeniMax isn't talking about this, so they will exist in some form though. Constellations and birth signs. Mundus stones function just like Skyrim's Guardian stones, so that's going to be in it. The iconic constellations appear in several more forms throughout Tamriel. And then towns, the Imperial City and Cyrodiil, Windhelm, Daggerfall, Sentinel, Mournhold, Ebonheart, Eldenroot, Evermore, Riften. So a lot of the main ones are there. And this is a list that's far from complete, so more are going to be in it. The Elder Scrolls Online uses its own AI system. Nobody wants to be stuck adventuring through deserted nighttime streets because their playtime tends to fall later in the day. So they're going to completely try to work with that so that they keep in mind, different time zones. Mounts. They said that this is another question that the developers declined to give any detail on, aside from confirming that they will be in the game and will make sense within the lore. So that means no flying mounts. Fast travel. Way shrines enable the fast travel system and also serve as resurrection points. Kind of like you have to, I guess, in Final Fantasy XI, there were these gates in different areas, and you could travel from each gate. So I think that's how it's going to be here, where you could travel from gates to gates, but you can't just say, oh, I want to go from here to here, like in Skyrim. Dragons, it's almost a possibility that they're not going to be in the game, because they said that during the period this takes place, dragons aren't much involved in Tamriel's history, so it's a possibility that there will be no dragons in this. Stealth, there's still stealth in some way or some shape or form. Pets, we're not talking about this right now, he said. Player housing, making player housing work the way fans expect is too hard to implement in an MMO. There will be no NPC romances, and the Tamriel world will be completely voiced. Yeah. If you haven't read this article, again, read it, or check out the website that I'll put it in the description, or just, you know, search it on Google. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff on it. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's kind of like, at first I was like, what? But then you start reading, at least in my opinion, when I was reading this stuff, it just sounded pretty fun. So I think it could work if they're really careful, which seems like they are being very careful, especially since they're working closely with Bethesda, and they're trying to keep it as true to Elder Scrolls as possible. So, and it sounds like a huge project, something new, something that I mean, usually, I mean, leave it to Bethesda and the Elder Scrolls to really go all out. So they've always gone all out on all their games, and they really want to make them good. And when they're working on a project, they work on it for a long time, and it seems like they've been working on this for a long time as well. Because I mean, I hadn't heard a lot about it, and then I finally this comes out in a full-on article, and they've already got screen caps and stuff like that, and I'm just like, whoa. So they've been working on it for a while. I've got my hopes up. I might even get a freaking PC for this. Depends, though. I don't know. I'm excited. I probably will end up playing it, because it just sounds too epic not to. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you think it's a bad idea, if you think it's a good idea. I'm sure there's both sides out there. But yeah, that's the Elder Scrolls Online. Hopefully it does good, and I'm gonna keep on looking up information on that. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys later.